Hey gang, this is my grading video featuring kind of oddball first issues. As I mentioned last time out, the original video was about an hour long, so I decided to break it up into shorter 20-minute chunks for YouTube. If you haven't seen that first part, a link is in the description below, but otherwise, stick around. We're going to have some fun. Captain 3D from Harvey Comics. Now this is, I don't know what the hell happened to this book, but somewhere it was rolled up or bent or folded. Can you see how that kind of flops all over the place? So it's kind of ugly. And without the glasses, the inside is kind of ugly too. And I don't know if those colors are faded, that red and green, or if that's how that initially was supposed to look. Now, I think this is Jack Kirby art, so this is a fairly desirable 3D book because it is Jack Kirby, and it does have the 3D glasses. It looks like the earpiece is broken off, and it's been stapled in there. Got those same damn initials, GDB, and it looks like the name is Gloria Barley. Well, Gloria Barley, wherever you are today, don't write in your books. Everybody knows they're yours. They're not going to take them. You don't need to write in them. But I think this said, 2 pairs of magic specs at no extra cost. So, true 3D. Okay, sure. But we've only got 1 pair of specs here, and they also are lacking the earpieces. So, but I mean the quality of the cover is still nice and white for a, what year was this? Kind of 50s. Now, you could probably press this folding here. You could press that out. There's nothing you. Oh, it's good. Oh, that's the staple from the glasses. There's nothing you're going to do about all of these ticks and stresses along the spine, but you could make that book flat. So you could improve this book a lot by pressing it, and it is 1953, if you can see that. Oh, but I have to grade it on what I have, not on what it could press out to be. And I really think I'm going to have to call that because of all that bending, and this one is bad enough that it's created a little bit of hole there in the spine. I think I'm going to end up giving that a 3.5. I mean, if it was flat, didn't have those stapled in there, just on this, you could probably get away with a 4.5. But I think I'm going to go 3.5 on that. Centurions. This, I think, was based on a toy line. This is 1987, so I was about 19 at that point, so I wasn't really buying a lot of toys. And this is number 1, and I don't know if this was, it is a mini-series, 4-issue mini-series. This is Don Heck art. So around this period, Don Heck was not terribly exciting. He was a really good artist back in the 50s and 60s. By the late 80s, though, he was technically still fine, but just not really exciting. I didn't like Don Heck very much as a kid in the late 70s, early 80s. It just seemed kind of stale and static to me. Bob Rozakis was the writer. So I think we've got a tick here, tick there, here and here. We get some bends, and I don't know if you can see in the light that there's some dimpling, some bending, a light bend here that doesn't really break the color. Something happening there. Again, doesn't really break the color, but it's been folded. This book basically looks like it's got shaken baby syndrome. Like somebody, So there's not really a lot of like actual tears in it, but it doesn't really present all that well. So I think I'm going to end up calling that a 6.5. Actually, no, I think I'm going to call it a 7 because there are no actual tears. Charlie Chan. DC Comics had a Charlie Chan series in the 50s. Now this feels a little thin. I'm going to have to count these pages. This is is that 65? It is 65. So this is after Dell and Western split. Dell went off on its own, made some not very good books, and eventually gave up the ghost on comics. Western continued on, keeping most all of the licenses it had, Disney and whatnot, and publishing under the Gold Key or the Whitman logos. Centerfold's good. Pages are pretty good. You got a kind of a missing chunk down there at the bottom. So let me take a little closer look here. We got quite a few stresses here. Lower half is better except for that chunk. Stress there. Here, and a little piece missing. And this is all wrinkled. I don't know how well you can see that. Can you see more, Drew? Doesn't look good, does it? All kind of wrinkled right in through there. Yeah. But it's complete other than this little small chunk in that little piece. I just don't really love how much wrinkling there is right here. So right now I'm kind of torn between a 4-5 and a 5. I think Frank Springer. I think I'm going to go a 4-5 on that. If it didn't have all of that wrinkling right up there in that corner, I could give it a 5 even with those two chunks, but 4-5 I think is the best I'm going to do. All right, is this the last one in this stack? It is a Christmas Treasury from Dell, and you saw when I picked it up that gave way. It was already split, you can tell by how old it is, but that's about a 1/2-inch bottom spine split. The rest of the spine looks kind of okay. These big Dell spines tend to have like a lot of abrasion on the spine, but this one's still got nice gloss, full paper. You get a kind of a crush there. Somebody dropped it or banged it up against something. A little piece missing there. Well, that's actually a little longer than I thought it was. That's probably about a full inch bottom spine split. Just starting to tan up in the back and some wrinkling. A little piece of some little kid's booger. I was thinking, I'm hoping that's somebody's Christmas candy. It's probably some little kid's booger. The inside's browning up a little bit. So look at that. Now, I don't know well enough, does this any Walt Kelly in here? I don't know. That's annoying. Just that, see, there once was a boy named Peter and a girl named Polly. They went by car to their... Boy, that's as almost annoying as Interlac in the Legion books. Look at that. You could actually play that if you knew how to read music, I guess. The Holly and the Ivy. I've never heard of that song. Deck the Halls. Good King Wenceslas. So this is obviously some very 1950s, 1954. It is. So, and it almost felt like there were some loose leaves there, but I guess they're okay. So you got a little bit of everything in here as far as formats and story. Boy, this book would have kept some kid busy for hours and hours. Well, maybe not too many hours. There's quite a bit of... Not being able to read music, I just call that all filler. It means nothing to me. And there's about 20 pages of it. Look at that. So, I think I can call this, maybe a 5. It's really not down in the very good range, but it's, it's got too many problems to be a fine. The major blunting here, little piece out there, and that 1-inch bottom spine split. But even with that, I don't think I need to go down as far as a 4-5. What would you do? Do you take off a lot of points for things like that, or a big blunt like that? But overall, I would say that I'm going to call that a 5. And now we're on to Happy Days. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. I should be doing Doc Savage next. All right, let's put the Happy Days aside. Doc Savage is next, alphabetically speaking. So there is Marvel's version of Doc Savage. I don't think this lasted very long, this series. 8, 9, 10 issues. There was also a Doc Savage magazine. And they took the Man of Bronze thing a little literally. This is 1972. And it's Ross Andrew and Jim Mooney on the art. So we have to look and see. Find that centerfold. Make sure it's not detached. Looks good. Front and back look good. So you got a ding here and a little one there. Front cover looks pretty nice. Small spine stress tick there. And kind of a blunting up here. Looks like it was dropped at some point. I think I can call that a... I could probably call it a 7.5, but I'm not. I'm going to call it a 7. Just because you may not be able to see it on the camera, but there's some stressing here. It doesn't break color, but that's only because there is no color there. Now the front though looks nice. Although if you hold it in the light just right, you can see there's still quite a few bends here. So it probably looks a lot better on the camera, what you're seeing, than it actually is. And Ewoks. Now, Ewoks, here's a book you couldn't give away for a lot of years. Then it got really big, and because it's kind of now, it's like a novelty. And the thing about this, because of the black cover, the black inks, and because it was a kid's book, it's hard to find this in high grade. It often, you get fingerprints in it, or smudges, and you can see, like right here, you've got some little bit right there, probably where somebody's thumb was when they were, or finger, when they were reading it. That's not super white, so it's, it's fading a little bit. And you got, I don't know how well you can see it on the camera there. Probably not at all, but maybe if I hold the light just right, you can see there's a line. This whole spine is bent. Not enough that it rolls or breaks the color, but that is probably a function of somebody having read it fairly carefully, but still folded the cover back when they read it. That cover looks okay. Kind of tanning down here at the bottom. And so I didn't see those pages are starting to tan at the bottom there as well. So that's going to cost us some points because you kind of, this is only a, what, 1980, 85? So this is new enough that you would really like to have those pages nice and white. Who did this? Warren Kramer, never heard of him. Marie Severin though, inker and colorist. Because you've got quite a few small ticks here that kind of do show up because of the black, the bend, the fingerprints. Overall, it looks nice, but then once you really start kind of looking at it, it's not quite as nice. And then there is the kind of the tanning. So I think we're going to call that a 7. But I bet you that does well. What's next? Fox and the Hound. Now I believe this was a 3-issue series, like an actual mini series from Gold Key, although this is the Whitman version. And you've got a kind of a light bend all along here and some rippling here. It's not really water or moisture damage, but it's just kind of rippling right through the whole book. And it's the same thing with that Ewok. The pages aren't as white as you would really like them to be. That cover's kind of tanning up a little bit. So as a Whitman, this would have been sold probably in a 3-pack. Even though it's got a price on it, probably would have been sold not as an individual comic, but as a part of a 3-pack in a department store. And it is 1981. And I actually just put up on eBay. Well, I haven't put it up yet, but I have it set to go. The whole 3-issue run of this. But I took out the number 1 that was in a little better condition to sell as a single. I had 2 of the number 1s and then a 2 and a 3. I think I'm going to call this one a 7 as well. Really can't get up to a 7.5. You get some little stresses there and there, color fading here. But it's mostly because of this kind of light bend and that rippling right there and the overall tanning. So we're going to go with a 7 on that. And up next, Gay PURR-EE. Now, do you have any idea what this is? You know, I told you at the top that there would be things in here you've never seen before. I have never seen this before. I've never even heard of this. I've got no idea what this is. I assume it's some kind of animated movie, or maybe it's a series of shorts. I'll have to look it up. UPA, so that was the same outfit that I think was doing the Mr. Magoo cartoons. So quite probably these characters probably today live with the DreamWorks Classic Media, which is part of NBC Universal, which is part of Comcast. So if Comcast ever started up a comic book company with all the properties they own, maybe you might see a Gay PURR-EE comic. Could you get away with Gay PURR-EE these days? Would it have to be actual gay cats? A series about homosexual cats rather than ones that are just happy? That would probably sell. Oh my God, the Bronies. I bet the Bronies would love a series about gay cats. Sorry, cracked myself up. So, kind of the big, this overall, this is a nice looking book, especially for probably early 60s. What is it? 1962. So, I mean, you got a book in that good a condition that was a Marvel or DC book from 1962, you would be absolutely right, smack dab over the moon. And it being one of these giant books, I'll have to look up and see what 25 cents equates to in modern dollars from 1962, but, big books like this tended to get, mangled spines and whatever. This one is starting to tan. The big problems, though, is you've got like a chunk out, and I can't even imagine what that is from. You got a chunk out there and a chunk out here, and the way they're spaced apart, I want to say they're teeth marks, but there's no like indentation from a bite. But I can just imagine something biting there. Maybe a puppy. Yeah, I don't know. Could be that maybe that's the puppy's canine teeth, and somebody ripped it out of the puppy's mouth just in time. I really can't say. I think this is something I'm going to give a qualified grade to, and I don't do qualifieds very long, but I think I'm going to, very often, but I think I'm going to give this a qualified 8. Qualified 8, but for those two marks right there. And I could probably almost go to an 8.5 if I wanted to push it.